Welcome to Module 2.6. This is the final stage of AI Sana Program 2. If you are watching this video, it means you have completed all 5 modules of this program. You have spent 15 weeks working through the fundamentals of AI programming, in-depth industry knowledge, global market trends and case studies, the hard skills of building and selling an AI-powered product, and the leadership and teamwork capabilities that make all of that work in practice. That is a serious body of learning, and I want you to feel the full weight of it as you enter this final week, because this week you are not going to receive more content. You are going to demonstrate everything you have built. This module has one purpose. It gives your team the opportunity to present your AI solution as a pitch, not to describe it in an essay, not to summarize what you learned in a reflection document, to pitch it on camera in the format you would use in front of a real investor, a real industry partner, or a real decision maker. Your team will record a pitch video and upload it to YouTube. You will also build a pitch deck in Google Slides and share it via a public link. You will then submit both links through the Smail platform, where an AI evaluator will review your video and deck, score your pitch across 12 phases, and provide personalized coaching feedback. You need a score of at least 70 out of 100 to pass. I will walk through the most common pitch mistakes, how to present yourself on camera, and the full process for recording, uploading, building your deck, scoring, submitting, and resubmitting. Watch this lecture once all the way through before you begin working. Then come back to specific sections as a reference while you prepare. Every detail in this video matters for your submission. Let us begin with the 12 phases your pitch must cover. Your pitch will be evaluated across 12 phases. The AI evaluator reviews both your video and your Google Slides deck and scores each phase from 1 to 10. All 12 scores are added together to give a total out of 120, scaled to a score out of 100. You need 70 or above to pass. Every phase matters equally. There is no phase that counts more than another, and no bonus for excellence in one phase that can compensate for weakness in another. A pitch that is strong on 8 phases and skips 4 will score significantly lower than a modest pitch that addresses all 12 honestly and specifically. The evaluator will find every gap. Phase 1 is vision and problem statement. Describe the problem you are solving and your vision for what the world looks like if that problem is solved. The evaluator is looking for a specific, clearly described problem with real users who experience it in a real context with a measurable consequence. The difference between a high score and a low score comes down to one word: specificity. Not a broad societal challenge, a concrete problem that a defined group of people faces in a defined situation where the cost can be measured or estimated. Vague problem statements score low. Quantified, well-researched statements score high. Phase 2 is market opportunity. Define your total addressable market, your serviceable addressable market, and your specific target segment. Each figure needs to be supported by data or a clear logical estimation method. Our market is large, scores 2 or 3 out of 10. There are 180,000 farms in Kazakhstan with more than 50 hectares. Precision agriculture tools reach fewer than 5 payas. SAM is approximately 9,000 farms, and at $2,000 each, that represents an $18 million opportunity. Scores 8 or 9. Show your research. Explain your logic. Phase 3 is solution and value proposition. Describe your AI-powered solution in detail. What does it do? What makes it unique? How is it different from what already exists? What specific value does it deliver? And why would someone choose it over alternatives? This is the phase where your MVP becomes most visible. A description of what your solution would do scores meaningfully lower than a demonstration of what it already does. Generic descriptions score low. If your solution could describe 100 different products, it is not specific enough. Phase 4 is technology and AI architecture. Explain the specific machine learning or AI models and algorithms you will use and why you chose them. Describe how data flows through your system from input to output. Describe any technical innovation or advantage your approach creates. Phase 5 is data strategy. Where does your training data come from? How will you collect, label, and maintain it? How will you handle privacy? And how will you identify and address potential bias in your data that could produce unfair or inaccurate outputs? Vague references to publicly available data or big data score low. Specific sources, specific collection and labeling methods, and honest engagement with privacy and bias concerns score high. Data is the fuel of any AI system, and the evaluator wants to see that your team has thought seriously about where that fuel comes from and whether it is clean. Phase 6 is business model. How does your venture make money? Describe your pricing strategy, revenue streams, and unit economics. Who pays how much and why will they pay that amount? We will use a subscription model is the beginning of an answer. A response that explains the monthly price, customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, and gross margin tells the evaluator that this team understands what it takes to build something financially sustainable. Phase 7 is go-to-market strategy. How will you acquire your first 100 customers? Describe the specific marketing and sales channels, the specific partnerships, your growth strategy beyond the first 100 customers. Social media and word of mouth is not a go-to-market strategy. We will partner with the National Agriculture Extension Service to pilot with 30 farms, document those pilots as case studies, and use them to approach the 5 largest cooperatives in Kazakhstan by year-end is specific channels, actions, targets, timelines. Phase 8 is competitive landscape. Identify your main competitors, both traditional companies and AI-powered competitors. Explain how you position against them and what your defensible competitive advantage is. Do not pretend that competitors do not exist. The evaluator knows they exist, and ignoring the competitive landscape immediately loses credibility. Honest, specific analysis of who you are competing with and why your approach is different and defensible scores significantly higher. Phase 9 is team and execution plan. Describe your team's skills and explain why you are the right people to build this particular solution. Provide a 6 to 12-month roadmap with specific milestones. Be honest about the gaps and how you plan to address them. Phase 10 is ethics, privacy, and compliance. What are the ethical risks of your AI system? How will you address bias, fairness, and transparency? What regulatory frameworks apply, such as data protection laws in Kazakhstan, healthcare regulations, financial services regulations, or GDPR in Europe? This phase is not a formality. The evaluator is looking for genuine engagement with the real risks your specific AI system creates. A team that identifies the 2 or 3 most important ethical concerns and explains a concrete plan for managing each will score far higher than a team that lists general AI ethics principles without connecting them to their actual product. Phase 11 is financial projections. Project your revenue, costs, and cash flow for 3 years. State the key assumptions that drive those projections. Identify when you expect to reach break-even. You do not need a perfect financial model. You need a logically consistent one that shows your team has thought seriously about the economics. If your assumptions are clearly stated and internally consistent, the evaluator can follow your reasoning even if the numbers turn out later to be wrong. Numbers from nowhere score low. Phase 12 is scaling and impact. How will you scale from your first 100 users to 100,000 and eventually to 1 million? What infrastructure, partnerships, or market expansions are needed at each stage? And what social and economic impact do you envision for Kazakhstan and beyond? This final phase rewards ambition that is grounded in realistic analysis. It is your opportunity to articulate the full significance of what you are building and to show that you have thought seriously about what it actually takes to reach that significance. Before going further, let me spend extra time on the minimum viable product, because the evaluator is calibrated to look for it across multiple phases, and because it is the single most common place where student ventures lose points unnecessarily. Every word in that phrase carries weight, and most teams misunderstand at least one of them. The evaluator is looking for evidence that your team has moved beyond the idea stage. There is a meaningful gap between teams that have an idea and teams that have built something, even something small, and tested it. You cannot fake the insight that comes from watching a real user struggle with your interface or from seeing your model produce a wrong answer on a real input. The first form, a working web or mobile application with one core feature, just one, the simplest version of your AI inference loop. A user uploads something, your model returns a result, the user reacts, no accounts, no payment, no settings menu. If your eventual product will do 20 things, your MVP does the most important one and nothing else. The second form, a no-code prototype connected to a real AI API. Platforms let you build an interactive demo in days, calling a Hugging Face model or a major provider's API with no traditional engineering. This is a legitimate MVP if it lets a real user do something useful with AI in your domain. The skill being demonstrated is clarity about the smallest interaction that proves the core hypothesis. The third form, a Wizard of Oz prototype. The user thinks they are interacting with AI. Behind the scenes, a human is producing the responses while you build the real model. This tests whether users want what you are offering before you spend months training a model no one needs. If users return to a manually produced version, you have evidence the automated version will be valuable. The fourth form, a manual concierge service. Deliver the value of your eventual AI product entirely by hand for the first 10 users. Learn what they need, value, and ignore. When you automate the right thing because you watched real people use the manual version. Many successful technology companies began this way. The fifth form, a Jupyter notebook with a working demonstration on real data. For deeply technical AI products, a new model, a new method, a notebook showing your model running on real input and producing meaningful output with clear before and after comparisons can be your MVP. It needs real data, real outputs, and a comparison to what the user does today. What unites all these forms? Something exists, something runs, something can be shown. In your pitch video, when you reach phase 3 or phase 4, you should be able to show, not just describe, your MVP in action. 30 seconds of screen recording showing real input producing real output communicates more than 5 minutes of slides. The first MVP mistake, the demo that is not a demo. The team shows a slide titled Demo with a screenshot and describes what the user would do. That is not a demo. That a demo shows the system actually running. If yours is not there yet, say so honestly. Describe what works and what is in progress. Fake demos are easy to detect and damage credibility of every other claim. The second, the cherry-picked example. The team shows the one input where their model performs perfectly. Sophisticated evaluators assume that if you only showed one, the others are worse. Show 2 or 3. Be honest about cases where the system currently struggles. A team that shows both successes and limitations builds credibility, not damages it. The third, mistaking infrastructure for an MVP. The team has set up a database, configured authentication, designed a microservices architecture, and built no actual user-facing functionality. Infrastructure is impressive in isolation and useless in practice. Strip it away, show the AI doing something useful. Infrastructure is what you build after you know what you are building. The fourth, the MVP with no users. The team has built something but never put it in front of anyone. Even 5 users, 5 honest conversations observing real use produce insights no internal discussion can match. Get your MVP in front of people before you record. The specifics you learn will transform your answers across nearly every phase. The fifth, overbuilding before validating. The team spends 3 months perfecting features and then discovers users want something different. The whole purpose of an MVP is to learn before investing. If your team is spending more time polishing than testing, the proportion is wrong. Ship something rough, learn, improve what real users actually care about. While we are on the subject of mistakes, let me name several others that the evaluator regularly encounters in student pitches. These are mistakes that experienced founders learn to avoid only after their first or second venture fails. You have the chance to learn them now before you make them with your own time and resources. The first mistake, solving a problem that does not exist or that exists but does not matter enough for anyone to pay to fix it. Start from the problem, not from an interesting AI capability. Can you point to specific people who experience this problem today? And can you describe in detail what they currently do about it? If not, your venture is hypothetical. The second, falling in love with your technology rather than your user. Teams sometimes describe architecture in elaborate detail and then breeze through their user and go to market. The order of importance is user, problem, solution, technology, in that order. A modest technical approach solving a real problem for paying users succeeds. Extraordinary tech no one needs fails. The third, defining the market so broadly no one believes you. Everyone who uses the internet is not a market. Small and medium-sized agricultural enterprises in Central Asia who currently rely on manual crop monitoring is. Narrow markets are credible. The more specific your initial market definition, the more experienced reviewers trust you understand it. You can expand later. The fourth, mistaking interest for intent. Almost everyone will say your idea sounds interesting. This is not validation. Validation comes from observed behavior. Someone using your product, paying, signing a letter of intent, doing something concrete that costs them time or money. Polite enthusiasm is not the same as commercial intent. The fifth, premature scaling. Teams imagine 1 million users before serving 10. A team that has served 20 users well and explains how they will grow to 1,000 is more credible than one that has served 0 and plans for 1 million. Starting small is not a lack of ambition. It is the only path to large outcomes that actually arrive. The sixth, dismissing or hiding the competition. Every meaningful problem has people working on it. No direct competitors means either you have not researched or your problem is too small. Both are bad signals. Acknowledge competitors, name them specifically, explain why your approach is different and defensible. The seventh, financial projections built on magical thinking. A spreadsheet showing exponential growth with no underlying logic is worse than a modest projection with clear assumptions. Show the math, show the assumptions. A founder who can defend their assumptions, even if they turn out wrong, is far more credible than one who cannot explain where the numbers came from. The eighth, the team slide that tells the evaluator nothing. We are passionate students who love AI is not why this team should build this venture. The right framing, here is the specific skill, experience, or insight each of us brings, and here is why this combination is unusually well positioned for this specific problem. The ninth, not testing your AI on real messy data. Many teams train on a clean public data set and report impressive accuracy. Then, real-world input. Missing values, inconsistent formatting, noise, edge cases makes performance collapse. If your only test data is a benchmark data set, you will eventually need to bridge to real data. The sooner you start, the more credible your venture. The 10th, confusing activity with progress. A team that built a logo, registered a domain, designed business cards, and held many meetings has been active. A team that put a working prototype in front of 5 users and learned what they need has made progress. These are not the same. Prioritize work that produces real evidence over work that produces appearances. Covering all 12 phases clearly should take 5 to 10 minutes, roughly 30 to 60 seconds per phase. Phase 3 and Phase 4 often deserve more time because the MVP demonstration lives there, but you cannot spend 4 minutes on Phase 1 and rush through the rest. Plan your time before you record. Practice out loud. Your video must be uploaded to YouTube. It must have English captions. It must be public or unlisted, not private. And it must contain at least 1 minute of spoken content. Without meeting all 4 requirements, your submission will be rejected with a specific message telling you what to fix. Every team member must appear on camera and speak. A presentation where one person carries 9 of 10 minutes will receive a low score on Phase 9. Distribute speaking by what each person knows best. The team member who built the MVP should speak about it. The team member who did market research should present Phase 2. This signals authenticity. The first 30 seconds set the frame for everything that follows. Do not begin with team introductions. Begin with the problem. The evaluator decides within 30 seconds whether the rest will be worth full attention. State with conviction the problem you are solving, who has it, and why it matters. Then introduce the team. End just as deliberately. The last 30 seconds are what the evaluator holds in mind as they finalize their assessment. Do not end with, "That is our presentation, thank you for watching." End with a clear statement of what you are building, why it matters, and what comes next. Land the closing. Practice until you can deliver it without notes. Speak slightly slower than feels natural. First-time presenters speak too fast, especially when nervous. A slower pace projects confidence and gives listeners time to absorb. Vary your pitch and energy. Emphasize words that carry meaning. Pause after important statements. Silence used well is one of the most powerful tools a presenter has. On speaker transitions, hand off explicitly. When one team member finishes their section, briefly name what the next person will cover. For example, "Now my colleague will explain how the technology works." This gives the next speaker a clean entry and signals that the team is genuinely working together. Awkward silent transitions create the impression of a disjointed team. Light comes from in front of you, not behind. The most common amateur mistake is sitting with a window behind you, which turns your face into a silhouette. Face the window or face a lamp so that the light falls on your face. Sound matters more than picture. Record in a small carpeted, soft-furnished room rather than a large, hard-walled one. The smaller the space, the less echo. If you have access to even a basic external microphone, use it. Built-in laptop microphones are usable but inferior. Frame yourself so that your head and shoulders are in the picture, with a small amount of space above your head. Not so far away that you appear small, not so close that the camera is pointed up your nose. Eye level with the camera is the goal. If your laptop camera is below your eyes, raise the laptop on a stack of books until it is level with your face. When you reach the moment to show your MVP, switch to a screen recording or share your screen. Show the system actually running. Narrate what is happening as you interact with it. Keep this segment short. 1 to 2 minutes of screen-recorded demonstration with clear narration is far more effective than 5 minutes of slow exploration. Before and after the demonstration, return to the camera so the viewer sees you again and feels reconnected to the team. Cut away anything that is not directly relevant to showing the core function working. Avoid filler words such as you know, and kind of. Some are unavoidable, but excessive use registers as uncertainty. Avoid hedging language such as, "We sort of think this might possibly work," when you mean "this works." If you have evidence, state it confidently. Explaining is what you do when you want to make sure the listener understands every detail. Presenting is what you do when you want the listener to act. In a pitch, you are presenting. You do not have time to explain everything. Choose the most important points and make them sharply. Do not try to cover everything you know. Practice the full presentation out loud, ideally in front of a teammate, at least twice. Time yourself. Identify which sections feel awkward, which transitions need work, which moments need stronger delivery. The first complete spoken rehearsal reveals more weaknesses than any amount of silent reading. Address them before you press record. You do not need professional gear. A smartphone camera in a quiet, well-lit room is completely sufficient. What matters far more than production quality is the clarity and substance of what you say and the discipline of the presentation choices we just discussed. Go to youtube.com and sign in with a Google account. Click the camera icon at the top right and select Upload Video. Choose your video file. While uploading, fill in the title using this format: AI Sana Program 2, your team name, final stage presentation. In the description field, type every team member's full name and student ID number. Under visibility, choose either unlisted or public. Do not choose private. A private video cannot be accessed by the SMAIL evaluation system, and your submission will be returned as incomplete. Click Save and wait for YouTube to finish processing. Processing can take anywhere from a few minutes to an hour depending on the length of your video and your connection speed. Do not copy your video URL until YouTube confirms processing is complete. When processing is complete, copy the full URL from your browser address bar. It will begin with youtube.com marked watch. Save that URL somewhere safe because you will need it for your SMAIL submission. After processing is complete, go to YouTube Studio by typing studio.youtube.com in your browser. Click Subtitles in the left side navigation menu. Find your video and click on it. If YouTube has already auto-generated captions, click on them and review them carefully. Correct any errors you find. Inaccurate captions matter because the SMAIL system reads them as part of its analysis. A misheard phrase or incorrectly transcribed number can affect your score. Once captions are published, test everything. Open a new browser window while not signed into any Google account. Paste your video URL. Confirm the video plays without asking you to sign in, and confirm captions appear. If it asks for a sign in, your visibility setting is wrong. Fix it before you submit. Your deck must be built in Google Slides, not PowerPoint, not Keynote, not a PDF. A Google Slides link gives anyone instant access in their browser. No software, no download, no formatting differences. Your evaluator, your instructor, and your classmates all see exactly what you built. Your deck should have at least 13 slides, a title slide, and one slide for each of the 12 phases. Label each slide clearly with the phase name. This structure maps directly to how the AI evaluator reviews your deck and makes it easy for any human reviewer to follow your thinking. You may add additional slides within a phase if the content genuinely needs it. A technical architecture diagram for phase 4, an MVP screenshot for phase 3, a financial chart for phase 11, but do not pad your deck. Every slide should be there because it communicates something the audience needs to understand. Source every number. If you say the market is worth best $1 million, note where that figure comes from. A brief attribution in small text is sufficient. Numbers without sources damage your credibility more than almost anything else in a pitch. Open your deck in Google Slides and click the blue Share button at the top right. Under General Access, select Anyone with the link and set the permission to Viewer. Click Copy Link. Before submitting, test the link. Open a new browser window while not signed in to any Google account. Paste the link. Confirm the deck opens immediately without prompting you to log in. If it asks for a sign-in, your sharing settings are not correct. Fix them before you submit. Your pitch video is evaluated by AI across the 12 phases, producing a score out of 100. But whether that score counts fully toward your grade depends on whether you also submitted a Google Slides deck. If you submit both your YouTube video and your Google Slides deck, 100 PIAs of your AI evaluation score counts. If you submit only your YouTube video without a Google Slides deck, only 80 PIAs of your AI evaluation score counts. The other 20 PIAs is forfeited because the evaluator cannot access the slide-based components. Suppose the pass threshold is 70 PIAs. Your AI score is 75. With a deck submitted, your effective grade is 75 PIAs. You pass. Without a deck, 80 PIAs of 75 equals 60 PIAs. You fail. Same video, same performance, same AI score. But the absence of a slide deck turned a passing grade into a failing one. This is why Google Slides is required for Program 2, not optional. Submitting without your deck is not a minor omission. It is a structural penalty that can cost you the pass even when your video is strong. Submit both links every time. The system also checks several requirements automatically. Your YouTube video must be public or unlisted. It must have English captions enabled. It must contain at least 1 minute of spoken content. If any condition is not met, your submission will be rejected with a specific message telling you what to fix. One member of your team submits on behalf of the entire team. This person is the project lead. When the project lead's submission is accepted and passes evaluation, the entire team receives credit together. Before the project lead submits, they must add all other team members by typing each person's email address into the team members section of the form. Team members who are not added before submission will not receive credit for the project, even if their names appear in the video or on the slides. Add everyone before you click Submit. Log into the Smail platform through your Platonis LMS. Navigate to Program 2, Module 2.6, and open the final stage submission activity. You will see a form with 2 URL fields and a section for team members. In the first URL field, paste your full YouTube video link. In the second URL field, paste your Google Slides shareable link. Then add all of your team members by their email addresses. Once both links are entered and your team members are listed, you are ready for the next step. Before clicking Submit for official grading, use the Preview Evaluation button. The preview runs exactly the same AI analysis as the official submission, but it does not record a grade. It gives your team the chance to see preliminary scores and coaching feedback before committing to an official submission. Use the preview to find out which phases are scoring below 7. Then revise those phases in your video or deck before you submit officially. There is no limit on how many preview evaluations you can run. Each one is free and does not count as a submission attempt. Use it as many times as you need. The Smail AI Evaluator reviews both your YouTube video and your Google Slides deck against all 12 phases. Each phase receives a score from 1 to 10. The 12 scores are added together to produce a total out of 120, which is scaled to a score out of 100. You need 70 or above to pass. If your score is below 70, the coaching feedback report is your guide for what to do next. Do not resubmit without reading it completely. A resubmission that reproduces the same content in a slightly different order will produce a similar score. A resubmission that directly addresses the coaching feedback will produce a meaningfully different one. Build your MVP. Test it with real users. Address all 12 phases honestly and specifically. Use the preview. Read the feedback. Revise. Submit officially when your team is proud of what you built. This is the end of Program 2. You have earned this moment. Go build something worth presenting.